All right, Nick Sortor's in the backdrop. We're going to get started. There's a surprisingly little on the internet about Nick Sortor. I wanted to know where he came from, how many siblings he has. We're going to see if we can find out. I'm bringing him in now. Everybody, let's do this. Nick, sir, how goes the battle?
How's it going, man? It's
Good.
I thought it was interesting. You're talking about Mitch McConnell. He is my senator, actually, because I am a resident of Kentucky, and a lot of people in Kentucky have been trying to get him to retire for a while. He's been there for a long time, man.
It's astonishing when they show those montage clips of Joe Biden and everything he's been saying in politics for 40 some odd years. It's I don't know. It's insane how long certain people stay in politics and either achieve nothing or achieve total destruction. But that incident with Mitch McConnell, I mean, it is either a mini stroke or it's Parkinson's. It's something serious.
Sure.
So now, look, I couldn't find much online. I was looking for controversies. I discovered you during the East Palestine, and I'm going to tell you, I think you're an absolute madman of the highest order for going down to these places where like the air is toxic, the water's toxic, the EPA is not telling us anything. So let me just go down there, breathe the air, have to drink the water, etc. I won't delve too much into your personal life, upbringing. 30,000-foot overview for those who may not know who you are. How did you become what the internet describes as the accidental journalist?
Yeah. So by trade, I was a software engineer who was working in real estate. I was building real estate technologies. And then, all of a sudden it came along. It was back in like January. I started doing Twitter spaces with Mario Nawfal every once in a while. And, I heard the East Palestine story and I was like, you know what, this is ridiculous. This is a travesty. It's a big cover up. And the government is screwing these people. So I decided, okay, yeah, I'm going to go out there. I'm going to go, I'm going to try to broadcast this to the world. I had 35,000 followers at the time. So, I mean, it wasn't a big account. I didn't expect I was going to be there for like a day or two, in my opinion, just to try to put out a little bit. I didn't expect the story to get as big as it did. But once I got there, it was super clear that this was, an absolute travesty on every level. The government was the Biden administration was just trying to brush it under the rug, hope it would go away. If nobody talks about it, if there are no journalists that are there on the ground, which there were not at the time, then what do they have to worry about? They can just basically, curb stomp these people and be good to go.
Now, so hold on. So I think it's you who described yourself as the accidental journalist, but you are as new to this. Like when I only discovered you through East Palestine, that was your first foray into independent journalism?
That was it. That was the first one. I had never done any sort of journalism before at all.
Now, either I'm getting old, and I think it's the case, but you look wildly young. May I ask how old you are?
I'm 25 years old.
Yeah, you are young. Okay. 25 years young. Professional training? I mean, I know what you did for work, but like education, university, what did you study?
So I actually didn't go the university route. I worked with some people in Louisville. I won't name drop them right now. There's let's just say he's a pizza man, big pizza guy, and he he was my mentor. Yeah, there's not too many people that you can guess, and so you'll probably figure that one out. A quick Google search will do it. But he kind of got me. He mentored me and got me started in the world of business and building something for myself, rather than having to rely on going and getting a piece of paper from college. And I learned via experience, and that's so I've just been implementing that in the field of journalism as well now.
Okay, so very cool. And we'll get into East Palestine, I mean, a bit, just to see where it's at right now, but also because it's the perfect segue in that we're seeing the same MO from the federal government in terms of incompetence to potential cover-up. And I say potential just to weigh my words.
That's right.
You just up and decide, I'm going to East Palestine to see what's happening on the ground myself.
Yeah, absolutely. It was I put out a tweet. Literally, I asked people on Twitter. I said, should I go to East Palestine, Ohio? I was like, is this, and this is happening? You have this picture of this massive mushroom cloud that was just engulfing this entire town. This small town in Ohio only has a few thousand people in it, right? And they've been suffering because of the, over the past couple of decades, because, manufacturers have been moving out. They were one of the largest producers of pottery in the United States, funny enough. in East Palestine, Ohio, and that manufacturer moved out, and a lot of people have been losing jobs. They've been struggling, and this was just they didn't need this. This just made their lives that much worse, and this is going to end up destroying the town. That was my mindset, and I'm like, okay, these people need a voice. Let's try to give them a voice, via Twitter, now X, I guess.
And so you get down there, and I mean, give us a bit of what you saw. We've seen the videos of throwing rocks into the rivers and this like oily substance come bubbling to the surface. The cover up, not getting answers. Do we end up knowing what happened with the water? Was it clean? Where did the smoke go? What happened, and what's the state of it now?
So we put a team together, and a lot of us met through X, funny enough. And there were scientists that were willing to come in and spend their own money to take soil samples, to take water samples. We've had actually Tucker Carlson's team. He sent a team in to come and help us broadcast this stuff out. And we were able to find that the water was super contaminated. The video that you're referring to, where you throw the rock in the water and it disturbs the sediment. Yeah. And all that oil, all that those toxic chemicals would come straight up off the bottom. The EPA was trying to hide that. We found that by disturbing the water. And, just brushing on top of the water, you weren't getting any of that result. You had to actually, that was by accident, actually. I threw a minnow trap in the water and ended up disturbing the sediment, and that's how we figured it out.
At the risk of asking maybe not the stupid question, but what will be the defense potentially? Well, that it was like that before. It was already a polluted river, heavy oils. I don't know, heavy oils might be the wrong term, but stuff goes to the bottom. Was that a new phenomenon that people were describing? And setting that question aside, we saw videos of dead deer and all sorts of stuff. Was that all new that the locals were saying it had never occurred before?
Absolutely. So the lady that was in the video where, I filmed her throwing the rock in the water, she showed me videos of her kids, which, I will say real quick, her kids have not been back to East Palestine since this derailment and the catastrophe that happened back in February. So months and months ago. And they're not well off by any means. I mean, they're lower middle class and such. And she showed me videos of her children playing in that creek, like jumping in it and running around in it. And you never saw any sort of chemicals coming up from the bottom, no rainbow sheens. That was all new.
And so what happened? You ask the, I'm saying the ETA. It's the EPA.
EPA, yeah.
The Environmental Protection Agency. You ask them questions like, what federal agents are down there? Who's taking questions? And what is their response when you ask them these obvious questions? Is it safe to be here?
Yeah. So what's funny is originally, and I say funny, it's because it's like face palm. You're like, you've got to be kidding me. Why would the EPA not be the first agency to go in? This is one of the largest environmental disasters in recent U.S. history. And, EPA officials couldn't even be bothered to go in there. They basically just told Norfolk Southern, oh, yeah, you can take care of it. The people that created the disaster are now being trusted to, clean up the disaster. And so we kind of forced the EPA to come in there finally. And the EPA administrator came in. He has no qualifications. He's just another, just to be totally honest with you, he's just somebody that, we had a resident there that was yelling at him, being like, "You're a diversity hire," again, because he's not good at what he does. He's not good at answering questions. I had to force him to let me ask him a question because I wasn't a credentialed journalist or whatever. I hear that all the time. Yeah. It's ridiculous.
Well, that was one of my other questions. You show up not credentialed, and you're wet behind the ears and coming from the internet, so nobody's going to take you seriously. Right. Until you start, the truth starts reverberating, which it is now. Then they take you seriously, which might lead to other stuff, which we're going to get to in Lahaina. Okay, and so and the state of the city, the state of the town now, is it basically abandoned?
Well, so there are a lot of residents that have just not come back because they still don't trust. We're still getting results back from soil samples and water samples where the water is still not clean. It's still not clean. And we're talking, we've done tests as far as 13 miles away, okay? Because you had this ultra toxic ash from the explosion that they called a controlled explosion. that, traveled via wind and ended up in people's backyards, ended up in all these streams, and it's being washed down the streams. There was a quite a large stream that ran directly next to the train tracks. Okay, so when they started dumping all of these chemicals into the water, it was just being carried downstream, and that's why we're doing more tests here next week, hopefully, up to 20 miles away. But we keep going further and further and further, and we're still getting these just absolutely catastrophic results from these rivers. And so people are terrified to go back. They still don't trust their own drinking water.
Well, I mean, especially when you see what happened after 9/11, where they said the air is fine, everybody can go back, and then people are still dying of cancer. And we're going to see what happened in Lahaina. I mean, it's not, they're not wrong for not trusting. It's just it's the way to cover up the incompetence. So you're still covering the East Palestine story, the situation, I should say. You're testing the river water. What is the impact on people's drinking water that's coming in through pipes? Are people involved in testing that?
Yeah, so people are involved in testing that. Well, so I say people are involved. It's not our people, because we're not allowed to be. We're not allowed to test the water on our own. We can test it coming out of the taps, but even at this point, we want to know if the water is still being contaminated in the treatment facility, because this creek that I'm talking about runs. That's where they're drafting the water from. So, why are they not letting independent people test the water in the treatment center? That's beyond me, and that scares a lot of people. Why not be transparent about it? If it's fine, if it's clean, let us find out for ourselves. Let us prove it to the people. Trust me, I'll tell them. I want to be the first person to say the water is clean, go back home, everything is safe. I can't do that.
All right, that's going to segue us into the disaster and arguably, but not arguably, criminal disaster in Lahaina. I'm going to end this on YouTube. It doesn't change anything from our end, so everyone hop on over to Rumble in 3, 2, 1. All right, man. So you have your first encounter with on the street, on the ground reporting in East Palestine. Then the shit hits the fan in Hawaii, and you're sitting here. You say, "I'm going to go."
Yeah, it was overnight. I decided, okay, I'm going to book a ticket out there, and I'm going to go. I had no plans in mind. I had nothing. I hadn't talked to anybody out there for the most part yet. All I did was I tweeted about it and said, again, should I go? And I started getting more and more concerned. Originally, I wasn't going to, because the rhetoric in the beginning was, Maui is closed, don't come to Maui. And so I was trying to respect that, if that's what the people wanted. Now, unfortunately, I bought into that narrative in the beginning. But once I got there, I quickly realized that narrative did so much more damage to that island than needed to be done, because now you have all these people that are economically displaced. We're talking 70 to 80% of the economy out there is tourism based. You have these people working 2 and 3 jobs in the tourism industry, and they've been laid off. Okay, so they don't have any income. They're not getting any help from FEMA, clearly, and
that's because. That is because they announced, like, don't come to Maui. Set aside Lahaina. Don't even travel to Maui, so tourism dries up overnight. It's another effective lockdown.
Right.
And then the people that live in Lahaina, who work in Maui and elsewhere on the island, are out of work. Population of Lahaina was 13,000, give or take. Do you know offhand?
Yes. Yeah, it was 13,000. Now, the thing is, we don't know what the population is now because, well, we don't know how many are dead. We have no idea.
I was listening to Redacted. Someone had sent me the Redacted news, and they're floating the number of potentially 2,000 dead. Do you have any the most up-to-date assessments from the ground? Because we sure as hell can't trust a word that's coming from the government.
So it's going to be at a minimum 500 dead once we get closer to the end of this. The problem is, will the government ever actually say that? Because how long will they keep people on a missing list? They kept people on the when it came to 9/11, there were a lot of people on the missing list for years and years and years. So it might take years for us to actually know. But now they're saying that this big exclusion zone, and we'll talk about that here in a bit, is 99% searched. 99% searched, but the number is still 115. When I got to Hawaii 2 weeks ago, it was 110. So they're basically saying in that time they've only found five more cadavers, which is
And I've heard the rationale is some of them might be so incinerated there may not be any material left to even identify, so they might never be able to confirm the death, or at least recover DNA sampleable remains. Okay, actually, just practically speaking, explain how this works. You land in Maui and then you try to drive out to Lahaina?
Yeah, so originally what I did was I booked a hotel that was about 45 minutes away from Lahaina because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be in the way. I didn't want to pull resources from people that needed them out there, such as, residents that were displaced that needed a hotel. And I didn't book like a vacation rental or anything. I went 45 minutes away and booked a hotel, a very cheap hotel that had plenty of vacancy. And once I went out there, I rented a truck. And honestly, I rented a pickup truck. The reason being was because I was hell-bent on getting into that exclusion zone. I was like, I said, I'll go to jail before I let them, keep me out of that exclusion zone because, they decided they were going to start arresting residents and such. And I was ready to do that. So I bought the pickup truck because I wanted to go around it. And luckily, the next day, they finally opened up the main road that goes around Lahaina. I never did enter the exclusion zone, but I could get at least close enough to the point where I could put a drone up in the air. I'm going to publish that video here, hopefully later today. It's close drone video.
What kind of drone do you have? The Spark, or do you have a Phantom?
I have a Mavic 2 Pro.
Okay, that's a good one. All right.
Yeah. So it's pretty easy. I can pretty much I can pack it in a small bag and be fun. But it keeps getting taken away by police, though. It wouldn't be the first time it would get taken away this time.
So you're staying far away. You rent a pickup truck. You expect to try to get around the exclusion zone. What is this exclusion zone? Are there like barricades set up so that journalists and not pedestrians, civilians can't get back there?
Yeah, no, even if you're a resident, you're going to get arrested for going in there. They've already begun arresting residents. I published something on that yesterday. They have put up, I'm telling you, man, if they were to secure the southern border like that they secure the perimeter of this town, illegal immigration would no longer be a problem. It's so rock solid. There is hardly any gaps in any fences, and anywhere there is a gap, you've got National Guard, you've got state police that are, if you go in, they're going to know that you go in. They're going to know very quickly. And there's no sign of that stopping. If anything, over the past several days, they've actually put up more fencing and put black sheathing, so that you can't even see through. It's crazy.
How tall is that black sheathing? I saw the video, but it's tough to. Is it like 8 feet, 10 feet, or?
Yeah. The fence is probably about 8 feet, and it's as tall as the fence is. So it's totally opaque.
What's I can imagine the steelman justification is we're searching and rescuing, so we don't want civilians getting in the way. We don't want journalists hampering our abilities to recover. But is that still true? I mean, it's been over 2 weeks now.
That was the first excuse, and trust me, the governments out there are full of excuses. They're not actually good at coming up with them, but they use plenty of them. Now that they're 99% searched through all the rubble, and they even admit that they've searched 99% of it. What now? What's the excuse now? What are we waiting on? You're still not going to let people go back into their homes? I'm sorry, if I was a resident, I would do the same thing this other guy did that he got arrested for. I would absolutely be going in there at this point, because how long can these people wait especially people that weren't in Lahaina at the time, residents of Lahaina that weren't there during the fire? They have no idea if there's anything left of their home. They have no idea if any of their belongings are left there. It's crazy. And honestly, if some of these people have lost or they have missing children and such as well, I would want some closure. I'd want to go in there and search the rubble myself to be able to find out what
Now,
actually happened.
I forget if it was Jessica Rose or I forget who I had asked, but I said, look, why aren't we seeing videos of screaming parents? Where are my kids? If there are as many missing children as there are, the quick response to that was the parents are perished as well. But you're on the ground. There are presumably some parents who did not die, whose children are still missing. Are there lines? Are there people shrieking? Is there a vocal element of people saying, where the hell are the kids, and let us and give us some answers, or not as many parents as you would have otherwise thought?
So I have spoken with parents that are missing children, but a lot of them don't see. This is I have covered multiple disasters since East Palestine, and the people of Maui are a little bit different. It's a very close knit community. They don't like to. They're very laid back people. I know when it comes to children, you're a lot more up in arms over it, but they they do what they're told. They trust their elected officials, and at this point, that's kind of going away a little bit. But they don't want to be on camera. They don't want to. All they're doing, they're trying to find their child through local channels, right? They don't believe that blasting this out on national media in terms of trying to find their children is the way to do it. There's missing posters around the city. I posted some of those, 4 missing children that parents have posted. And the ones that I've spoken with were ones that were at work at the time. They were at work. They were forced to go to work that day, even though the children were out of school because of, a lack of power. And so they weren't able to get home in time. The road was closed as well. So even if they worked nearby, they couldn't have gotten to their homes. So I've been treading lightly on that entire thing, just based on the parents' wishes. If the parents wanted me to really, start screaming that to the heavens, I would absolutely do that for them. And I think they're getting to that point. I'm still texting one back and forth pretty frequently. So they're getting more and more fed up.
Parents who have missing children.
Yes. And a set of grandparents as well.
There are people who are going into the darkest black pill elements, potentialities of, whenever there's a crisis, it's an opportunity for human traffickers, Haiti, earthquake zones. I had Googled just to look it up, and there was a recent story of a number of people arrested on child sex ring stuff. And I noticed a few of them were from Lahaina. Do you have any information on that? Any news, any confirmation or dispelling of rumors, or no information whatsoever as to the possibility of that awful potentiality?
I can't dispel any of those rumors because it's hard to, parents don't want to think that way, right? They're trying to say, these are very optimistic people. And I admire that about them. And they don't want to think that there was anything nefarious going on here. But I cannot dispel any sort of rumors about possible trafficking and such. And I certainly can't get any answers from the government on that stuff. I mean, they won't even talk. Look, I went up and I confronted the mayor. I was very vocal about the children to the mayor, asking him, why is he hiding the amount? If they have found 115 cadavers, even if they haven't been able to positively identify those 115 dead folks, they still know, and I talked to pathologists about this as well, they can identify based on cadavers approximately how old that individual was. So they know, they have an estimate, some sort of general idea how many children are dead based on what they have found so far, but they're still hiding that information. They're just waiting on this entire story to go away and hoping that, because that is one thing that everybody in the United States, for the vast majority of people, would be up in arms over. And elected officials have, 3 goals: is to get elected, stay elected, and get elected to higher office. And so they're trying to maintain that course.
Now, I saw that interview with the mayor where you might have been rowdier or more impassioned than a seasoned CNN journalist who asks the right questions and then gets the right answers. It was straight up stonewalling. And then, you guys aren't behaving. I'm putting an end to this interview. No more questions. You haven't gotten any more cooperation. What's the mayor's name? I keep forgetting his name.
It's Richard Bisson.
You've gotten no further information from him. Is he holding daily press conferences or no longer?
Oh, well, they're definitely not holding daily press conferences. They hold press conferences every once in a while. But the problem is they handpick who goes into the press conference. I can't get into the press conference. They're not going to let any residents ask any questions. Mayor Bisson doesn't go out in public. That's why when you saw the video of when I was confronting him, that was such a rare occurrence that the media were swarming him, trying to ask him questions, an impromptu press conference. The guy that was yelling at him before I said anything to him, I don't know if you saw that part. He was asking about children, saying, "Yes, you do know about children," and such. That was not a reporter. That was a resident. That was a resident of Lahaina, and and he started getting mad at the resident of Lahaina. And once he started pushing back on it, that's when I jumped in and I started getting on him. And
Nick,
he decided at that point to end the press conference. So.
do you hear and see me? Because my computer froze.
No, I can hear you, but I can't. You're not moving.
Tabarnouche. And so you see that stupid face that I'm making right here, the same one that I see. Well, let me wait for, let me wait for my computer to maybe refresh. Okay, very interesting. Now let's get into the other thing. That video when you were on the war room with Steve Bannon, and there was somebody there. Somebody showed up behind you at 5:45 in the morning while you were doing a live report from the parking lot of the hotel. Any news on that? Did you know who that person was? Have they been identified? Any other events like that?
No, there's been multiple people that have contacted me being like, I know who this guy is. It ends up being different identities every time. I didn't try to go any further when it came to identifying the guy. I would have if so. I had to, and luckily I had donors that were willing to support this. I was able to hire security that would stay with me when I was going into Lahaina, or if I was they would stay out in the parking lot overnight at my hotel. That's how worried people were after seeing that, and that was, and I truly appreciate that, because it was a little worrying. You don't expect to be outside of the parking lot of your hotel at 5:45 in the morning and somebody come up behind you. I was already paranoid about it, to be honest with you. I kept, even Steve's producers, before we actually started on the show, I kept looking back, looking over my shoulder. I just felt like something was really off. I was alone, and this guy appeared, and I didn't want to get into some sort of confrontation on camera. I turned back because I had a monitor. I was able to see myself, so I could also see behind me. And I could tell whether or not he was trying to advance on me. And then once he flinched again, that's when I turned around and I actually started engaging with him. And I picked up my tripod and tried to move away. But we were live on air. It's never happened to me before. And, I didn't want to be, if he was actually a resident, I didn't want to be hostile toward him. There were so many things going through my head at that same time. But it was crazy. I don't know if we're still on, but Mr. Viva is, I guess he's in Florida. He's blaming the hurricane for his computer having to reboot here. He froze up on my end. I don't know if you guys saw him freeze up as well, but he said keep going. So I guess I'll keep going. So,
all right.
He's back. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I was just making sure. I didn't know if I was still live or not.
You're still live. I mean, and you did watching you while I'm sweating like a pig while my computer reboots. And I heard everything. So, except for the fact you have not been able to identify, and you still don't know who the person was. It sounded like someone that you were in touch with via Twitter.
So the one that I have gotten, and like I said, I didn't investigate this any further because I honestly didn't want to engage with this individual. I thought that honestly there was something clearly maybe a little mentally off. And I didn't want to engage with him any further. I didn't want to try to reach out to him. I didn't want to I didn't want to get the police involved. I didn't want to do anything because I was handled. I had security. I was okay. There was nothing going to happen beyond that point from this guy, at least. But the guy that I was told this was, his Twitter account and whatever, it was an anonymous Twitter account, and he had messaged me supposedly the night before at about 10 p.m. saying, I'm on Maui. That's it. That's all he said. And keep in mind, I'm getting a ton of messages every single day. And this guy saying, I'm on Maui. even if I saw the message, which I don't think I did, I probably wouldn't have responded to that without more information, because there's just too many people that are messaging me at the time. But so if that was truly him and he messaged me after 10 p.m. the night before and I'm doing an interview at 5:45 in the morning, I can't imagine coming to confront me 45 minutes from Lahaina just for that reason.
Well, so, and this is the thing, like once you start witnessing this corruption of the highest order, it can not cause you to have imaginings. It can just make you like Alex Jones said, you go into the psychosis of the moment where you're connecting dots that might not be connecting. Right. The fears you have might not be real, but they might also be real. Other than that incident, have you noticed any sort of any pressure, any anomalies that could not otherwise be easily explained?
I mean, I get a ton of threats. I didn't get nearly as many threats as I do now as I was, when East Palestine, Ohio, and stuff like that was a big story, right? I mean, we blew the lid off of that, but I didn't feel threatened. I didn't, whether it was government rhetoric that was, against me. The only threat that I ever felt was being probably placed in jail for a time, and that's going to happen at some point. I mean, people don't like me, but death threats, that was something totally new. I still get them. And
because of the reporting from Hawaii.
Yes, because of the reporting from Hawaii. It's people that aren't even in Hawaii, or that at least that I can tell. And keep in mind, this happened the morning after I confronted the mayor. And I hadn't even published that video yet. This was before I had published the video. The mainstream media decided to start attacking me for confronting the mayor in the way that I did. And they broadcasted it on the evening news the night before. And then this guy shows up at 5:45 in the morning. It was just really odd. And this guy had no idea I was going to do a live hit at 5:45 in the morning. I didn't even know I was going to do it at 5:45.
Well, I watched it. I tried to analyze it. It looked like someone like maybe mentally unwell, but maybe also someone who might be angry that he perceives, independent journalists coming in, taking up resources, like he said. But either way, it's bizarre and ancillary to the story, but nonetheless, relevant to it. Are you heading back?
Yes, I will be.
When are you going back,
in the next
for how
few
long?
days? I actually don't put a time. I book one-way flights.
Okay.
And the reason I do that is because I don't know how long I'll stay. It depends on how much we can. My goal is to keep the story alive. That was the whole thing with East Palestine as well, right? Because as soon as this stuff goes out of the news, the government goes away. These people are left hung out to dry. So, either sometime this weekend, I would say I'll be back out.
And what is on the what's the strategy? What's the plan? You're just going to walk the earth and see what comes up.
Yeah, well, so I think one of the biggest things that needs to be hit on is the fact that we still don't have much more information on the children. I want to know more about this media. Why are they still excluding media, and why are they building more barricades to keep media and residents out of Lahaina? All that's doing is driving conspiracy theories here. And they have to know that at this point. The people of Lahaina, by the way, and around Lahaina, they're still not able to drink water, by the way. Kula, which is probably about 45 minutes away from Lahaina, they're still having to drink and shower only with bottled water. And nobody's talking about that either. And FEMA, they're not helping. The media is still there, and they're already not helping. It's just going to get worse. I want to know why. Why isn't the federal government helping these people more? It's insane, and I feel terrible for them.
There's a number, I say rumors at this point, but I think they've been confirmed. Have you heard firsthand residents saying people were sweeping in to make offers to buy up their incinerated properties?
They've been doing that for decades. They've been doing it for decades. They've been trying to force these people off of their properties. There are families that have been there for generations in Lahaina that they've been offered $10 million for their properties, their small houses and stuff they have there. And these people aren't wealthy. They're working 2 and 3 jobs, but they refused to sell it. People were like banding together, refusing to sell this property. And then one of the first thing the governor does when this fire happens and it starts getting a lot of media attention, he says, "Oh, well, we're going to go in there and we're going to buy all the property from the residents via eminent domain." And I mean, that is not going over well with these people, and they're about to absolutely explode over that. So they're not going to let it happen.
So that rumor is true. The other rumor, well, I think now it's well known or well established that the fire was started by these decrepit Hawaii electric power lines that had fallen over because of the wind. There was argument or discussion, delayed confirmation that they took their time or failed to shut off the power after the power lines went down. Any info on that?
Yeah, so based on there's an ongoing now. I mean, the county of Maui government filed a lawsuit against Hawaiian Electric, saying that they failed to de-energize their lines when they fell down. Now, Hawaiian Electric pushed back a couple of days ago, saying, "No, absolutely not. We de-energized the lines hours before this fire started, before the fire started spreading." And while the power lines may have sparked the initial fire, the county government as well as the fire department said that it was 100% contained. Okay. Yet they were still blocking the roads. The police department was still blocking the roads. That's why so many people got literally incinerated in the middle of the town because they couldn't get out, even though the lines were de-energized. And so a lot of that blame, most of the blame, in my opinion, is on the government. It's not even necessarily on Hawaiian Electric. Maybe they're liable for the first fire, but at this point, based on what we know, it doesn't look like they should be liable for the fact that the government just let it spread all the way through.
You said something, I just want to bring this up because you said like the government has to know that it's spawning conspiracy theories, failing to answer the questions. It's almost funny, but it's tragic. This is literally the tweet that POTUS just put out. I'm laser focused on the recovery and rebuilding efforts in Maui. Now, I know I don't believe the theory, but you do know that there are people who say or believe that that there were, what do they call them? High energy lasers from space. There's people who
Directed energy weapons.
Directed energy weapons. There are people who believe that. And you have Biden coming out now and saying, I'm laser focused on Maui. It can't be it can't be on purpose because he doesn't do anything on purpose anymore. I don't think he's capable of making decisions. Someone did that. And it's either a stupid accident because they're so detached and incompetent, or it's like gaslighting, rubbing salt in the wounds. The cause, okay, fine. Now, and then getting to the government incompetence, not sounding the alarms. This now is confirmed. They admitted they did not sound the alarms because they were afraid of driving people into the fire.
Yeah, so they initially lied about it. Okay, in the beginning, you had the governor of Hawaii come out and say, Governor Josh Green, a Democrat. Hawaii is a very, very blue state, and actually that might change a little bit after this. But he said that, the sirens didn't work. That's what he said originally.
Oh, okay. Well. I mean, that's our job.
Right. And then the next day he said, some of them didn't work. Okay. And then the third day, the Maui Emergency Management Agency comes out and says, we don't have any record of anybody actually trying to activate the sirens. Okay. And that's when the excuse became, we don't actually activate sirens unless there's a tsunami because apparently the people of Lahaina must be so stupid that they'll run directly into an inferno because they think there might be a tsunami. Because they said, people are trained to run uphill. Okay, they're not trained to run uphill into an inferno. And if you look on the Hawaiian government's website, it says very specifically that they are all disaster sirens. Dam breaks, terrorist attacks, wildfires, tsunamis,
ballistic
tornadoes,
missiles coming in.
Right. Yeah. So Hawaii doesn't have a very good track record when it comes to emergency alerts. We'll say that much.
Oh, man. Okay. And then, I guess, and what's the latest and the latest breaking? It's more of the same, setting up more barricades, more exclusion zones, less transparency. You say at least 500. Oh, we'll see. The number 2,000 children on redacted news. It sounds outrageously high, just given the population was only 13,000 to begin with. But instead of who's missing, I'd like to just, is there a number of those who are accounted for?
Yeah. So it looks like, based on the latest numbers that I saw, there were still over 1,500 children that had not been re-enrolled in schools. Because they've been pushing for online schooling, and they're actually allowing them to go to other parts of the island to go to school. And if you look on any of the lists any of the government lists or even the community lists, and you see names, they list, first and last name, and but they don't give you a picture, and they also don't give you the age. You have no idea how old these people are. So you can go through the lists all you want, but it's really hard to tell. Nobody is telling us how many children are missing. Again, if they would just say how many children were missing, all they have to do is try to give us a little bit of information, be a little bit transparent, and a lot of these conspiracy theories, quote unquote, will go away. People are worried about the children. We want to know more about what happened to the kids.
Excellent. I'm just looking to see if there's any questions that I have not asked you that people want me to ask. People in the Rumble chat. I lost all my windows with my computer. Freaking shut down. If there's any question I didn't ask people, get it in the chat in Rumble, and I'll see if it's on locals. Where can people find you, Nick? And first of all, how are you liking the journalism, independent journalism? Is it you're young, no kids, no wife? I mean, you're not married, I guess.
Not married, no.
So you can up and go to Hawaii with a one-way ticket, and it's invigorating. How are you finding this learning experience?
I think it's great. I think that there's a lot of benefit to going out and being able, especially using the X platform, to be honest with you. I couldn't do this if I was still using, Twitter 1.0. Because if I was on Twitter 1.0, I would have already been banned, especially over East Palestine, Ohio. There's no way that I would be able to broadcast this information and get it out without something like X. And I think it's good. We need more of this, and I really want to help people. And I'm trying to do my best to help people get more involved and go on the ground and cover these disasters. The more people, the better. And there's room for a lot of us, out there. And I hope to God, if I can help anybody get involved, I would love to be able to do that.
Now, I got your Twitter link in the pinned comment. Where can people find you? I mean, Twitter, is it?
No, well, Twitter, and I started doing, I started getting the message out a little bit more on Instagram and TikTok. Same handle, @NickSortor, SORTOR.
Okay.
And we're gonna keep doing it. So thank you for bringing attention to this, man. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. I had Alexa Lavoie from Rebel News on. I think it was a couple weeks ago now, and then I had Jessica Rose, who is not down there, but she's a PhD and has a lot of connections to Hawaii. So just to get the latest and to let people know what's going on, because it'll fade into the collective memory like East Palestine, and people forget. Except this is going to be, I say not to compare disasters. There's a lot more loss of life in the immediate here that this might not fade into the backdrop quite so quickly, or as quickly as the government would like. But keep up doing what you're doing. Obviously, stay safe as that patronizing thing goes, but don't do anything stupid. Okay, you don't do anything stupid with the government. They
I know you're an attorney, so I mean, I guess that's you're supposed to say that. So.
As an attorney, I would say don't drive your truck off road to get to the exclusion zone. Don't swim across, and be careful where you fly your drone as well. But and the chat is eager to see the drone footage. So Nick Sortor, SORTOR, but the link is in there. Everyone knows where to find you. Nick, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, have a good one.